Are we ready? I'd like to open the Special Engineering Committee meeting. Call to order at 4:37. Please stand for the pledge. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Both directors are present. Is there any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
If not, move to approve it.
I second.
Agenda approved. Is there any public comment? Is there anybody online? So there's nobody online and nobody in the house. So we will move to number 3, which is approval of minutes. Is there any changes to any minutes? If not, I'll move it.
And I second.
Minutes have been approved. That brings item number 4, Oeste Recharge Study Project.
Well, I don't know if there's anything new to report, if Sean has anything to add to that.
We have no update at this time.
Yeah.
From Mojave Water Agency.
Correct.
And what was the last thing they did? Was test holes?
Yeah, there's 2 monitoring wells on the property, and they're awaiting the Joshua Tree mitigation plan for their proposed percolation basin.
Okay. Thank you. Item 5 then, discussion regarding water systems. Start with pumps and wells service agreements. Is there anything?
Sorry, I'm getting there. Well 14's production, we have not had to utilize that yet this year, so we've only, in total for samples, produced 0.7 acre foot out of well 14. Our service line replacement program was temporarily put on hold while we completed the well 15 pipeline project. That is done. It's hydrostatic tested, back-teed, ready for service. Our water meter replacement program, which is even up another 150 over what's in this document. We're over 4,700, so we're about 65 complete. Change out of the district. We've begun the interior coating rehabilitation at tank 1C. The blasting's right about 3/4 of the way done. As soon as they finish blasting it out, we'll wash it and then start with the epoxy. Outfitting and equipping of well 17 is progressing. We're about 90% way complete. We just have to set our pole for our electric service. Drilling, outfitting, and equipping of well 15. Like I mentioned, the pipeline's complete.
Where is well 17?
Mountain well?
Yeah, that's called the well 17?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well 15, we anticipate bringing to the board not tomorrow evening, hopefully 2 weeks from tomorrow evening. We're just waiting on our VFD specialist to return our quote. The pipeline protection project on Sonora is complete. The Pinion Hills pipeline project, that was a new installation of 1,270 foot on Pinion Hills Road. Chris, was that 6 or 8 inch? 8 inch C900. Our crews completed that February, March. So we've been on a pipeline kick lately, if you haven't noticed. We just felt like getting all that out of the way before it got hot. 3A Booster B. That was an interesting one. That was another booster where the suction can got a hole. We'll be bringing photos. The can's made of steel, and we had a hole about the size of your thumb in that can. So what we were able to do is utilizing hydraulic cement and our tank coating epoxy. So it's ANSI approved. We hydraulic cemented the hole and then epoxy coated the can and basically made it like an epoxy liner. And I'm happy to report it worked. And it's been in service a week, fixing that leak and saving somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 on that can, should we had to saw cut it out. Really happy that worked out. All of our electrical efficiencies in the district are done. We're right about 150 dead ends flushed. We're about half, maybe 2/3. We're finishing that up here. And then we only have one washout left up for this year. We've done 9. Our contract calls for 10. We got one more. The divers are going to be going into 8A. That back one off snow cap, and that'll be done. And then the last page, page 15 in our packet, there's just a couple of the better photos from our well 15 pipeline. Picture's worth 1,000 words, so, but it's done and everyone's healthy, happy, and safe.
Is the bottom well, the bottom picture, the casing? Why is it sticking up like that?
No, that's the pipeline.
Well, that's your pipeline.
That'll be the future discharge.
They missed the height by a couple but otherwise
Measure twice and cut once, I always say.
Okay.
So we've got a little extra.
If you're
sticking
gonna
up
leave a
there.
stick up, leave a stick.
It's sticking up. It's a good 15 feet there.
I assume you welded the top on,
Yeah, that's an MJ cap.
yeah.
Yeah, just going back real quick to the can that Sean was talking about, we're probably going to run into that more and more often throughout the district. A lot of these are 20, 30 years old for the booster stations, and basically the metal's gone on some of it. So I asked staff to get creative instead of either having to do a complete new booster station or spend $100,000 cutting out this can and welding one and trying to get it in there. They found a way to do it. What do you think the total cost of the can repair was?
It was about $80 in hydraulic cement, and the epoxy was gifted to us from Superior Tank Solutions because they're epoxy coating our tank right now. So it was 1 pint, less than $100.
Plus labor,
Well,
time.
so I'm just wondering about epoxying other cans. Because you can get pump column that is epoxy lined. It's more expensive. It's supposed to reduce friction and of course rust and wear on the.
And this is our pilot study. So our plan was to get it back online, verify that we were able to patch that hole. We're going to pull this booster after summer, and we want to see what exactly happened. Is it holding up? Is this something long term, and is it sustainable?
Yeah, so it's if you look at how many we have, and if we find the fix for what would commonly go wrong, and the steel going away seems to be the common theme of everything we're seeing, just with I guess from the charge of the motor and everything, it's.
And as Don mentioned, this is our 4th suction can we've seen fail in the last 2.5 years. So obviously there's a trend, and we do want to. We wanted to pilot study the epoxy. Is this something feasible that we can preventatively do moving forward?
Right.
Does it work in that capacity? We've had other cans that weren't necessarily repairable, so we put in horizontal split case in lieu of. And as Don mentioned, we just get creative. It's a case by case, and we're really kind of got high hopes for the hydraulic cement epoxy method going forward, depending on where we had one that was in the lateral that just it would not have been safe nor practical to get to. It was below the Edison panel. Physically weren't capable of reaching it. This one was different because it was in the bottom of the can. But we just wanted to bring that forward, that is case by case.
Well, that's why we're lining our big tanks, because that prevents loss of metal. So it kind of makes sense to do it in any circumstances you can.
Yeah, what's interesting is, I don't know I doubt that they were epoxy lined to begin with, and that would be a great thing to
I
do
don't
if you were
know.
ever going to
They
install
should
one.
be, yeah.
They weren't, I can promise you
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
If they're not made of stainless steel, then
They're mild steel, I
Yeah.
promise you that.
Yeah.
There's about no carbon left to that steel.
Yeah, no, the staff did a great job figuring out how to do that, come in with the alternative plan
yeah, it's an
for
interesting
substantially
concept.
less.
Yeah. Okay, do you have any
Yep.
questions or comments? Anything else on the item number 5?
And nope.
Complete everything? Okay. Item 6, Smithson Springs.
Vegetation's growing awful fast up there.
Yeah, there's lots of water.
There's lots of water. Other than that, probably late fall, early winter, we'll go back up and do the vegetation mitigation once again up there, but nothing.
Did the road survive
Yeah.
the water? in
It's
the
rough,
winter?
but it's drivable
It's accessible.
for now.
Okay. Anything else?
What are the flows?
I have those on the whiteboard. I don't have those with me.
Okay, state regulations, there's nothing on that, I guess.
We'll be bringing the water conservation ordinance along with an update to the board at the second meeting in June.
Yeah, because we're no longer in an emergency situation, so, okay. Item 8, review of current projects.
Well, the project for the pressure zone 6, that was the pipeline that Sean just mentioned, that was completed February, March, the Pinning Hills Road. That was proposed to extend pressure zone 7 down to Maria Road. That was accomplished. What we're going to do next is put in some pressure logger at the end of Maria and see what those reads are, what the fluctuations in pressures. We're just discussing that after the field guys were busy with pipeline installations and everything else. They got some time to go out there and do some of these site things. So we'll be bringing that in to validate the project. I mean, pressures there was always just above the minimum requirement, 20 PSI, and in some cases below that. So that kind of helped that zone. So we extended pressure zone 7. The other Mescalero Road, with the model, showed that there wasn't a need to extend that pressure zone in that area because of the testing that the field guys have completed with the reservoir 6A and bringing that down to a level that didn't alert low pressure in parts of the districts. That initially was an issue when the hydrants were opened up that one night and brought the tank down level and had low pressure in most of the district on the east side. So that has been scratched off as our project. So we're pretty much complete.
What is the new tank going to do? That's 6A up here, right?
6A, yes.
And the new tank is going right there.
The high water level would be.
So that will eliminate the problem with low pressure if that tank drains too fast?
Well, it wasn't necessarily that the tank drained. It was when it gets down to a certain level.
It doesn't have the pressure anymore.
It doesn't have the pressure.
Right, so that will eliminate that problem, won't it?
Yeah, but we're not going to be able to utilize most of the water in both tanks.
A collaborative effort, engineering and operations ran the hydraulic model, and operations set all PRVs, especially on the east side of the district, to match the hydraulic model and bring almost a harmonic balance to that leg of the system. The PRVs were fighting one another, and since we've done that, we've been able to utilize, we used to get pressure problems around 15 feet at tank 6A. We've taken it down to 8 feet with no problems. This winter, we'd like to take it down even further.
Just to see?
Yeah, so we've really established that baseline and captured a large section of that tank that we were unable to utilize prior, and that's what George's referring to. This pipeline of Mescalero has been rendered basically not applicable
Not
now.
necessary?
Not necessary. The problem we had a few years ago with Edison hardening their system and shutting down many of their services of our booster stations, we didn't pump enough water up to 6A to serve. So that was a struggle. Adding more capacity at that zone should sustain some sort of longevity with with water delivery
Yeah.
during the summer months, so.
Yeah,
that
you'll
was a big
have, you'll
problem.
have a greater storage capacity and,
Yeah.
and less need to constantly get water up there, presumably. Okay.
So that pretty much crosses out the bullet point in current projects in number 8, pressure zone 6.
Well, number 15, you're just waiting for costs for
Correct. We're
pump
waiting.
and pump column and,
We've selected the best pump for the application, along with the best motor, and really especially looking for longevity. And we feel it's best suited to have a variable frequency drive, and a Toshiba to boot, and a very specific Toshiba in that. We're just waiting for the vendor to get us a cost to package that up and bring before the board for consideration. And I'm hoping mid next week to have that so we can bring that before the board to get those components ordered, to get this online,
this summer.
hoping to. We also have our application in with Edison. It did wind up being a 200 horsepower motor. So now that we have that, we're working on finalizing the site plan, so we can get Edison completing their design and getting us on the construction schedule. The conveyance mechanism, which is the pipeline, is complete. It's tied into the tanks. So I think that's about it for that one. It'll be, this is, basically now we stand at a point with well 15, we're very comfortable. We've brought in multiple wells online over the past few years from exactly this point forward. A hole in the ground, and we're even one step closer with that pipeline being done. And again, staff was able to do it in 16 days, 5,980 feet, which my hat's off to Chris and the guys. They did an absolute amazing job. 0 injuries, not so much as even a splinter.
It's because they wore gloves, right?
Absolutely. And well 17, we're working with Asplin. They're really good at setting poles. It's not so much in our wheelhouse. We are bringing in overhead electrical. The wells plumbed into the system. We've fired it up off a generator a couple of times. Chlorine sheds there. Basically, we're just awaiting Edison at this point. So, and we have the design. We're just a couple of days out from setting a pole, finalizing the wiring, and then we're waiting on our permit.
That was an existing well,
Correct.
so you didn't have to do a D-swap or anything like that.
I'm sorry, a what?
Some of the there's a report that comes with new wells.
A
To-
full permitting process?
Yeah,
Yes,
for the
we-
permitting.
We did have to,
Oh,
a
you-
permit amendment is required for that. We're adding a
Okay.
new source. The permitting amendment is done. We submitted that, about 2 months ago. So from that point, about 9 more months or so, the state will get back to us. They are not
Probably.
the most expedient. It's about a 6-month. If
You
I-
can get an emergency
we can,
if you need to, I mean,
we can.
so,
The best I've ever done one was 32 days. If you're really diligent and pushing them, this one we don't have Edison hooked up yet. And
yeah, I'm just
David
saying,
Swamp.
if need be, there, you can get a temporary to get it going if you need the water.
yeah, and we'll
As long
be,
as you have water quality tests, then it should.
we'll be
fine.
submitting well 15's permit amendment in the next month or 2.
Okay,
I'm good.
anything? All good? All right, then let's move on to the fun one, review of capital projects.
Page 5. Line number 1 for our chromium mitigation. So what we've tried to do with eyes looking kind of towards the future is when the state, we're expecting a verdict rendered this year, if not early next, with a 4-year compliance window for large districts such as ours. What is our course to compliance? What's that look like? What's it going to cost? And here's staff's best estimate at our compliance plan. So we have our well 15 finishing up this fiscal, segueing us into next year. Because of the additional production capacity, we would be able to complete equipping of well 12. So we have all the testing done. We just have to go in there and put the physical packer. And then we have $100,000 for the design and study of tank 6A. The following year, the construction of the reservoir 6A to house the chromium mitigated water.
Okay, one minute.
Sorry.
So you've got 150,000 for this coming fiscal year
Correct, 23,
for
24.
well 12.
Yes, sir.
But we've got probably 4 years plus.
That is correct.
So if you put a packer in now when it's not needed, that packer will be in there for 4 years before it's actually needed.
Yes, sir.
And seems like
We hit the inflate valve.
it seems like you're using a material that you're putting 4 years on the life of it that you don't need to.
Potentially. Pneumatic packers are, in my experience, very robust.
Well, I mean, if it's a 10-year life or something, you used half of it when you didn't need to.
And we didn't want to load all the cost into one particular fiscal year. We did our best at, again, a phasing attempt to distribute that over the lifetime.
I'm just
About
thinking about
the life, can we find out what the life expectancy of a packer is?
Sure.
I mean, I don't know off the top of my head. I haven't dealt with them that much, but
I don't
I
either,
think you have
but
a
I'm
good point.
just saying, if it's 4 years, we've already done the testing of it. We did that several years ago.
Correct.
And so, I mean, don't see a
Yeah.
rush.
No, so you have a good point, and I'm going to kind of jump in here real quick and talk about where I see the chromium project going. There's an agenda item for a meeting tomorrow night, so you got plenty of time to review it. So when we first started the chromium project 10 plus years ago, we figured it was going to be a $17 million project in 2012 or 2013 dollars. Obviously, it's probably gone up another 40%, maybe more since that time. And as we're kind of, we think, wrapping up the chromium project, actually, I'll wait till Mark gets back. All right. So we're kind of seeing what we think is the sunset on our Chromium 6 project. And 25, 26, if we move it back, it's not going to be detrimental because depending on when the deadline is and what the life expectancy of the packer is, we can certainly take a look at that. That kind of segues into what I was looking at. We have the chromium surcharge that we've been doing for a number of years during this project. If you look on, it's page 11, and it's part of the agenda packet, or part of the information for the agenda tomorrow night. If we finish up with what we have on this list, we're about 50% of the way through this project at, I'm just going to round it off to $6 million that we've invested so far. We have about another $6 million that we would need to do to finish this up. And we do occasionally hear people saying, well, why are we being charged for this? Why can't we just put this off? Well, we could not do it, but we wouldn't be in compliance. So we're trying to be proactive with the plan that we put forward, which is what we're going to be talking about now, the packers, whatever year 14 is done, packing for well 12, the tank, which for 6A, which will have, most of that's going to be paid for with grants, a $2 million grant. So this will kind of, in our minds, wrap up our Chromium 6 mitigation. But we have about probably a $12 million total. So one of the things that I would like to kind of throw out there for consideration to the board is, and part of the reason why we're having this meeting today is making sure that we have those items in for the rate study that we're going to be doing with Habib. And a suggestion that we would like to be considered, it doesn't have to be this way, but it could be, would be to have the Chromium 6 mitigation built into the rates. It's going to be the same amount of money. It's less confusing in my mind, because right now, if we were to charge a surcharge for electrical, our electrical went up, we're going to have a surcharge. that gets confusing. Any other chlorination or something like that, our prices went up, we have to have a surcharge. If we can anticipate what we need, and we think that we're pretty close with what we think is finishing out the Chromium 6 project, to wrap it up into the regular rates and our regular operating cost, and the Chromium 6 charge goes away, fully knowing that we still have to do these projects. So just something to consider as we're moving forward. You would no longer see that Chromium 6 on your bill, but it would be built into the regular rates, the cost of doing business for what we have to do. And the rate study would be for, looks like probably a 5-year period, and that would fit in well with the timing of the package, the packers. We can build those projects right into that, and I think we would be okay.
So it said on page 11 that we were guessing an estimated remaining of seven years to pay that back.
That's
so
correct.
we're saying keep the 971, but just roll it into the complete number that they pay, so they're not seeing all these itemized.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So and that would be determined whether it was the 971, exactly that amount, whether you shorten it to the 5-year study, the rate study that we would be doing, and wrap it up there. But at least we want to have some kind of end date certain for our customers. Again, we knew that this was going to be going on for quite a while, and if this is prior to you coming on the board, we had the 971 surcharge, but was going to go up as a normal operating cost because we were going to be pumping water from El Mirage up into our tanks up here. So that 971 was actually going to increase. So we're sunsetting that. We think our prices are pretty good where we're at right now, and we can be wrapped up with this, and this Chromium 6 mitigation project sunsets.
I have to think about that.
Yeah, it just I wanted to give you some time to ponder. I'm not looking for an answer
No,
this
obviously.
moment, but it's kind of appealing to me to not have to have that individual Chromium 6 surcharge on there. Other districts are going to have to deal with Chromium 6. Sheep Creek at their well 11 has 14 or 15 parts per billion of chromium. They're going to have a chromium mitigation program for their singular well at this point, potentially with their new well. If they hit something, they might, Sean's kind of looking at me like maybe it's more than one well, but I'm not quite sure. But they're going to have to deal with chromium mitigation at their district also.
Yeah, because I remember when we talked about, and we made a separate item, a line
Yes.
for it, so. Okay, I have to think about that. But I still would think about 4 years of saving the life on 4 years of a packer, so.
Yeah, I think
Might
once,
be something to look at.
Yeah, we can certainly see if we can't push that back.
Because we know we've got that much time,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and for the amount we're running that well right now,
For 12?
hopefully we'll be at no more than 2 acre feet for the year.
Well,
oh, no, you're talking well
That-
14.
that-
Yeah, well, 14. Well,
Well,
yeah,
14,
well,
yes.
Well 12 is our
12
greatest
is one of your
resource.
better
Yeah,
wells.
absolutely. So in part of the discussion too is, the need for additional sources of supply for the Chromium 6 and the storage for that. So when we're going through with the existing wells that we've rehabbed right now, staff has found ways by changing the pumping habits and blocking off portions of it or raising the pumps. There's a number of different ways that staff has been able to figure out to do, and kudos to the field staff. And to George and Tony, they've done a really good job with that. What you do lose is a little bit of production. So we have to make up for the production, and it's just an offsetting, kind of an offsetting way of doing this. But I think it's probably a great program compared to what it started out to, and I'm actually thankful that the state rescinded that for a period of time to give us the opportunity to actually come up with a plan like we have in place right now.
Okay, that was number one. I just wanted to make a comment on that. I saw it there and I said, well, we know it's some years away, so think about that anyways.
Absolutely. And then, as Don mentioned, on page 11, under the proposed projects, you'll see 5 additional, and that's kind of our roadmap look into the future. That is what's necessary from here forward, and then prior to that on page 11, everything that's been completed. So the 2, 4, 5, 8 projects that are done and the 5 that are left. And we felt it important to bring that forward, to have a roadmap and to discuss these items so we can move forward. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. The board at the time when we had added projects in the past had asked, we don't want to add any more, we're approving these projects, we don't want to add any more projects until we get to the point where we can kind of see where we need to go based on the experience that we have. So that's what we're proposing, is that these projects be added to this, and then we figure out, the board can determine how to fund this project.
That is not for this coming fiscal year.
No, this is going to be what you're seeing on the 10-year plan.
It's
So-
it's the 10-year plan.
Yeah, so some of those, they're not all going to be done right now.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
No.
Because I'm assuming I'm looking at this fiscal year plan right here in the blue.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And the meter replacement. So really, it's basically just, we're doing the meter replacement anyways. It's possibly doing well 12, but you're going to look into that.
Correct.
And a new truck.
That's it.
Okay.
Okay,
Pretty straightforward
pretty
this coming.
straightforward.
Nothing else? Okay. All right. Can we move to page, well, it's 3 of 5, big 7.
So this is actually the government CIP. It shouldn't have been in this packet. I think the entire CIP got merged in.
Okay,
So
well, I saw it
you
in
can
here.
ignore these pages.
Well, so I had a question. When do I bring that up then?
Is it a parks question, or maybe it's
It's
an
a
engineering?
government funds capital purchase?
We could talk after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk some other time.
It's not on the agenda.
Yeah, and likewise, the next one. Page big 8, okay. How about page big 9, is that on? This is the enterprise 10-year repair and maintenance.
Yes, you're allowed to talk about that one.
Wonderful. So it's a little small, but did you have any questions or comments about it? If you can see it?
Yeah, if I can see it.
Well, I'll start. Damn, I can't. Well, rehabilitate, oh, this is number 5, $125,000. Is that just a placeholder in
That
case
is-
a well goes out?
That is absolutely correct. That is money being budgeted for the repair and maintenance of one of the district wells.
Just in case? There's nothing specifically designed
Nothing,
for that?
just in
Okay.
case one breaks.
That was really my only question. The rest was pretty straightforward, except that I was surprised that the leak maintenance service line replacement costs $120,000
Correct. For the 150 gold.
for 150 gold costs $120,000.
Correct.
So it's about $1,000 plus or minus.
With staff time, labor, and materials, yes.
Okay. I was just curious about that. Okay.
Unfortunately, the poly, when we started, was about 70 cents a foot. Today, it's $1.83.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. It's worth it, because I noticed in your list you had almost a break a day
Yeah.
this last month.
Yep.
That seems like a lot.
We really saw that apex a year and a half ago. We saw it declining, and even as we've maintained service line replacements, we're seeing the number of leaks, unfortunately, has ticked up on us a little bit.
Now, does that
Continue.
commonly happen when it starts to get warm?
Very seasonal, yes.
Yeah. So there's kind of a,
Yes, there's
it's
an
kind
ebb and
of,
a flow.
kind of like all the wells seem to crater right at May and June when it gets hot.
Correct.
So, okay, all right. Did you have any questions or
No,
comments,
just
Kathy?
the rest of these are just normal maintenance.
Yeah, and Sean, I believe that this 10-year maintenance plan was already incorporated and adopted as part of the budget, correct?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, it's basically just most of it is maintenance,
maintenance.
And it's operations roadmap.
operations, yeah. Meters, things like that. Okay, so that moves us to big page 10. I guess this is what you were talking about?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so I know this is in the board packet
That is
for
correct.
tomorrow. Okay, so you've done the background and you've listed the projects completed, and then you have what is proposed.
Correct, and we highlighted such as 6B, when we started, it was 230 gallons a minute, concentration of 9. We're complete at concentration of 5 parts per billion at 290 gallons a minute. So we went through and highlighted the basically before and afters. And as Don mentioned, sometimes when we manipulate things, unfortunately, we do have to sacrifice low production capacity. Although at 6A and 6B, that was not the case. We actually gained production capacity.
Okay, so you also have profiling well number 14.
Correct.
Is that something that you're going to be putting on the project list sooner or later?
Later.
Okay,
Well 14 is our largest single source. So when we calculate our max day demand per Title 22, paper tiger, I think, is the best way to
yes,
describe that.
it's a placeholder, but the new well will
Is every-
hopefully supplant that.
Correct.
And so, yeah, at this time, I mean, like you said, we have at least 4 years. I wouldn't want to spend any money on 14
And I concur with
that we have to.
Yeah, we could always put a better pump in there and get, like the county used to think 1,200 gallons a minute out of that well and really up our production capabilities.
Yeah.
And we did propose
Destroy
that
it.
in the year 25, 26. And until an MCL is formally adopted, these are proposed. I wouldn't propose spending,
Anything on that
especially
until,
without an MCL being adopted.
yeah.
And then having within that adoption, the compliance window, this is all subject, hearsay, and the proposed regulations that are coming. So until they're formally adopted,
Yeah, that might be another reason to hold off on 12 until it's formally done.
yes, and I agree with that. And we absolutely would bring it before the board for consideration before, it's just having that as our placeholder and our roadmap for budgeting purposes.
Budget the money, but I really would hesitate on spending that,
Likewise.
so.
Yeah, and part of the reason why we want to build them into the budget now is so we're not having to pull money out of reserves then pay it later.
Right.
We're kind of trying to attempt a pay-as-you-go process for this.
That's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
That's why we put that
Exactly.
rider in there, in the billing. Okay, I didn't have any other questions on this except a question mark about acquisition of water rights, and that's something that we can explore, so.
Yes, there's some ideas.
My only question is what the number was, and Sean already touched on that. We don't know what the new number is yet, but you're already below 10, which they came up with in 2014, so kudos there.
You're allowed to be to 80% of the MCL on an average running annual basis. And that is in Title 22. So until I have that formal regulation to latch onto. That 4-year compliance window was proposed, and I'm going to proceed with caution. If they give it the hurry up, and I've seen it before, well, we don't want 4 years, we want 2. But it is tracking a 10 part per billion with a 4-year compliance window based on your connection size, and we would qualify for that 4-year as of right now.
Excellent. Okay.
And just for the record, that's 4-year compliance window. As long as there's a willingness to comply, you can always propose a plan.
That might take longer.
It
Yeah.
might take longer.
'Cause
If
of
you're
cost.
a sanitary engineer who you have a great relationship with, and David and I are on first name basis, that certainly helps sometimes.
Of course, you need to know who the third person is after David if we're going to be 3 or 4 years out.
Yeah, we seem to go through years about every 6 months, so.
Yeah, nobody sticks around there. They move around a lot. Okay. And
That was it.
Anything
That
else,
was my
Lorraine?
only question on that one.
so, Water Operations Manager's Report, I think you went through it. I had just circled that you had 25 service breaks and 3 main leaks in a month, and that just seems like a lot.
For
So,
recording purposes, we have to track our main breaks and our service breaks. 2 of those 3 main breaks may have been during the pipeline installation process. Doesn't count if you can fix it yourself.
okay. Yeah. But I'm just saying, 25 service breaks, those were,
Yeah.
and that, I just noted it, it's a lot, so.
And I expect to see that in June, July, even higher. Years ago, we used to see triple that number in July.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as the system starts stressing, things break, so.
Yeah.
Do you have anything?
Just to jump back really quick, I forgot one of my notes. Can you, for this newbie, can you define what a pneumatic packer is?
So
It's a
a well's
balloon.
like a
What it
straw.
does.
Let's picture this.
Blow it up.
That's a well. This is our casing. We
Peyronie's
look at
disease.
where water comes in, and then there's a special sampling tool. It's called discrete sampling. We'll take samples at intervals that come in. We capture a sample at different levels. And then you can run a theoretical blend for like a combined effluent, a combined what's this well put out. You can run your number to about 80% of the MCL. Take a pneumatic packer, which is like a balloon. It's a fancy way of saying an inflatable balloon.
Okay.
Stick it in the straw and inflate it, and voila, water doesn't come out of this. Now there's folks out there that don't share quite that firm belief in that I do, because they work. The only thing that theoretical blend does not account for is the annular spacing in the gravel pack. There's a fancy algorithm that somebody proprietarily built that my equation doesn't fulfill the same as theirs. Ours is done in-house, and they'll charge you $80,000 for that algorithm. I don't miss by 1 part per billion. I get you very, very close. And like I have told that gentleman, it is awesome that you can account for that annular spacing, and all that is a fancy way of saying the room between the rocks or the gravel. But the combined effluent is what matters. And those pneumatic packers work amazing. They're worked in aquifer storage and recovery wells across the country. Out this way, you don't see a lot of them. Where I used to work had them, and that's where I got familiar with them. They have a place, and why I like pneumatic packers is because they're not permanent. They do have a lifespan. They are made of Buna-in rubber. Same thing diaphragms and clay valves are made from. They're very tough. I have seen them have problems, but there's permanent devices, swedges. I'm not the biggest fan of those because it's permanent. Once they go in, I can't undo it.
Okay.
With a pneumatic packer, if we decide to change our mind, you simply deflate the balloon, and they are removable. And that's why I'm a proponent of them. Permanent scares me a little bit, as where that fancy little balloon, as much as all those equations and experience get you very close on that number, you can always deflate that balloon ever so slightly, and kind of rev up the RPM a little bit and get a couple more gallons a minute if you ever had to too.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
If you place it in a blank, you're going, when the well's drilled, if it's at least like a 20-foot blank, that gravel pack is not cleaned by well production. So if you can set the packer in a blank, you are not going to get any leakage from below through the gravel pack. Because I've tried to clean out of a 3-inch gravel pipe that was left in there. They put gravel in it, and then the mud was in there and left, and it's just like solid. I mean, you have to use a jackhammer to get the gravel out because it just freezes everything up. So if it's a 20-foot blank and you graveled, it wasn't cleaned, and that mud is going to be in there and it's just going to set rigid. You're not going to have leakage from below, from below up through a gravel pack if there's at least a 20-foot blank. I know that it doesn't clean up, so.
You and I share that belief, and proponents of this methodology, and folks that might detract from profiling methodology, unfortunately, but the results speak for themselves. And that little bit, I mean, the variance, you're talking maybe 1%. And when the concentrations we're playing with, there's such a safety factor in there.
5 or 10 gallons on a 500-gallon a
Yeah.
minute well doesn't do anything, so.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
That was it.
Okay, is there any staff report at this point?
No.
Beyond what we've discussed? 11, review of action items. Did we have any action items this time?
We had a carryover, but it was from months ago since we last met. And I'm not sure if you received these, the well 14 construction diagrams.
Yeah, I got that.
So that's
George.
complete.
Or was that well 5 though? 5 and 14. I was curious about 5, yeah. Okay, that was prior meetings. We don't have any for this meeting?
Just the lifespan of a packer
Oh, yeah,
and
the
to
packer
move that out.
lifespan.
Yeah.
That's something to find out. Okay. The agenda for,
So that date's wrong. It
that's
should
March
be,
15th is probably not correct.
yeah, it should be whatever is I have written down over there, Rebecca. June,
Oh, I stole her notes. June 21st?
June
looks like?
21st.
June 21st. Okay, so let's see. We won't have number 9 at that point, correct? So state regulations. Otherwise, I think the agenda can
I
can
believe
lose
we
number
can
9.
remove pressure zone 6. Is that what you said, George?
Yes, that bullet point. Yeah. Anything else? So those 2 things can be removed. And with that, if there's nothing else, we will adjourn at 5:26 PM.